Welcome, dear traveler of stories. Beneath the silver moon where ancestors speak in rustling leaves, a legend awakens. Join us as we listen, and if the night's magic calls to you, please like, comment and subscribe to keep the stories alive. The moon rose pale and swollen over the village, casting long shadows across the cracked mud huts and thorn-fenced cowpen. In the dead of night, a woman stumbled barefoot along the dust path, clutching a thin shawl around her frail shoulders. Her name was Zama, though the villagers no longer called her that. To them she was a witch, the curse who had caused the drought, the reason children got sick, and the reason goats miscarried. She was old, her hair a tangled crown of grey, her back stooped, her eyes ringed with the grief of widowhood and the weariness of poverty. Her husband had died long ago, a quiet farmer who had once shielded her from the whispering tongues. Alone, she became an easy target. The gossip turned venomous until the chief himself ordered her to leave. They chased her, shouting, throwing stones, and banging drums as if to drive out a demon. Some people spat at her feet. Some people cursed her name, and she, trembling and weary, carried nothing but her shawl and the brittle dignity of a woman who had endured too much. When the torchlight faded behind her, Zama wept. She wandered until her tears dried in the night air and the darkness thickened into silence. The path spat her out onto the edge of the royal lands, a place avoided even by the scavengers. It was the landfill, where the waste of the kingdom was thrown. Broken baskets, rotting fruit, bloodied rags from the palace kitchen, and bones picked clean by the stray dogs. The stench clawed at the throat. But Zama, with no hut to call her own, spread her shawl across a mound of rags and lay down. Hunger gnawed her belly, yet exhaustion pressed heavier. It was then she heard it, a sound that did not belong among the squeaks of rats and the rustle of scavenging dogs. A thin, desperate wail. She sat up, heart pounding. Again, it came, a cry, weak but insistent. Guided by the sound, she stumbled deeper into the heaps of refuse. There, wrapped in blood-stained linen, lay a newborn boy, his tiny fists flailing against the cold night air. Zama gasped, a child. The baby's face was smeared with afterbirth and dust, yet his eyes, when they fluttered open, glimmered like dark pools reflecting the moon. Who would throw away such a treasure, she whispered, gathering him into her arms. His skin was as soft as silk against his calloused palms, his body warm despite the chill. That night, with no food, no milk, and no plan, Zama pressed the infant to her chest, and she sang lullabies her own womb had never carried long enough to hear. By dawn, she had decided, if the world has abandoned you, child, then I shall be your world. She named him Musa, meaning grace. Zama scavenged for scraps, begged from passing traders, and learned to weave baskets to sell by the roadside. Musa grew strong on thin porridge and goat milk she bartered from kind herdsmen. Though she was wrinkled and frail, Zama became fierce when it came to the boy. She shielded him from the dogs, from the harsh sun, and from the cruel stares of villagers who muttered that witches ate children. But as Musa grew, so too did whispers of his beauty. His face bore a nobility that no rags could disguise, sharp cheekbones, broad brows, and eyes that gleamed with an authority far older than his years. Strangers paused to watch him. An old seer at the marketplace once caught Zama's arm and hissed, "This boy does not belong to dust and rubbish. He belongs to stars and thrones." Zama dismissed it with a laugh, yet her heart quivered with unease. The royal palace, grief that heavy upon King Jabuloni's heart. Years ago, His only son had been stolen in the night, vanishing from his cradle without a trace. His handmaids swore they knew nothing, his guards begged for forgiveness. The king's fury was legendary. One maid was executed, others banished. Yet the child was never found. Rumors spread that the infant had been smuggled out and killed to weaken the royal line. Others said the gods themselves had taken him, angered by the king's arrogance. King Jabulani grew older and lonelier, without the heir of the queen. For though many daughters of noble blood offered themselves, his heart remained locked in sorrow. Years passed. Musa became a youth, tall and broad-shouldered. Though his tunic was patched and his sandals worn thin, he carried himself like the prince. His laughter rang like a drumbeat, his stride cut through the dust like that of a lion. One day, during a festival, he entered the marketplace with Zama. Drummers pounded rhythms, dancers swirled, and children sang. Amid the noise, a royal envoy passed. The king's eyes fell upon Musa. He stopped, stunned. The envoy whispers, "He bears the face of the late queen. The resemblance is impossible." Within days, the palace summoned them. Zama trembled, fearing she would be accused again of witchcraft, this time for stealing the prince. But the king himself ordered their presence. When the king beheld Musa, his breath caught. The boy's jawline, the curve of his nose, the glimmer of his eyes, it was like staring at his lost queen brought back to life. "Who is your mother?" the king demanded. Musa bowed. "This is my mother," he said, pointing to Zama. But Zama fell to her knees. "My king, forgive me. I found him as a newborn abandoned in the landfill. I swear by the graves of my ancestors, I do not know who birthed him." The king's advisor urged caution. Blood tests with the royal diviners were conducted. Sacred bones thrown, water mixed with salt and oil. The answer came clear. "This is the lost prince. Flesh of your flesh, blood of your blood." Under torture, one of the banished handmaids confessed. Long ago, jealous of the queen, she had stolen the child and cast him out to die in the landfill. Fate, or perhaps mercy, had placed Zama there that night. The king wept openly for the first time in decades. He embraced Musa, calling him, "My son, my heir, my miracle." But when the court turned to cast Zama aside, the king raised his hand. "This woman is no witch. She is the reason my son breathes. She is the reason the royal line continues." Days turned to weeks. Zama was bathed, clothed in silks, and adorned with gold bangles. Servants bowed before her, yet she remained humble. Still rising at dawn to sweep her chamber and still feeding beggars from the palace kitchens. The king watched her with growing admiration. Her face was wrinkled, yes, and her hands calloused, but her spirit shone brighter than youth. Where other women simpered, she spoke with wisdom. Where others adorned themselves, she carried herself in quiet strength. And one evening, beneath the sky scattered with stars, the king spoke to Zama. "You gave me back my son. You gave this kingdom hope. Let me give you my name, my hand, and my throne beside me. Be my queen." Zama, who had slept on rags in the landfill and who has known hunger and scorn, felt tears spill down her cheeks. "My king, I am old, I am barren, and I am unworthy." But the king smiled. "You are the mother of a prince and the savior of a kingdom. Who is more worthy?" And so the wedding was held. Drums beating across valleys, maidens dancing, elders praising. For the first time in memory, the people rejoiced not at youth or beauty but at love, gratitude, and destiny fulfilled. Years later, Prince Musa ascended the throne as king, a ruler wise beyond his years, guided always by the counsel of the woman who had cradled him in dust. Zama, now Queen Mother, would often sit on the palace balcony, gazing at the moon, the same moon that had once witnessed her exile. And she would whisper, "From ashes, the gods raised me. From a landfill, they gave me a son, from despair, they crowned me with love." For the widow who had been cast out as a witch became not only the queen but also the living proof that fate never abandons those who endure.